Welcome to Anywhere the Needle Drops. I am Justin Flegel. I am your host, and if you are new to the show, maybe perhaps our guest today has brought you to the show for the first time, welcome. What we do here, we are based in a little corner of the world that affectionately, or sometimes not affectionately, but we're kind of stuck with it anyway, is referred to as Michiana. And there's a lot of great things happening musically and in art and in culture here in the Michiana area. And we're here to talk about that. That's what we do here. We talk about that. We talk about what's going on in the wider region and sometimes even the nation. And even beyond, actually. I think we've had at least one guest I can think of from across the pond, as they say. So, we get into all of it. And this is one of those extending our reach episodes. Our guest today is Justin Wells, a good friend of Red Chuck Productions. In fact, one of the oldest friends of Red Chuck Productions. We go back with Justin all the way to the days of his band Fifth on the Floor. I remember seeing them up in Ferndale, Michigan, opening up for one of my favorites, Roger Clyne and the Peacemakers. It was a great show, and I made a note of it, and next time they came to town, I was sure to get Justin on the show to chat about music, and he's been a friend ever since. It's great to have him back on the show to talk about his music, where he's coming from these days. He's got a new album coming out just about a week from today, actually, called Cynthiana. And man, the evolution he's taken with his work has been fantastic to watch. I'm very excited about this album. You'll get a little taste of it. You'll hear a song from the album before the interview. But before we get to all of that, how are you all doing out there? It is, we're living in some wild times, interesting times, as they say. And, the joke nowadays is no one wants to live in interesting times, and yet here we are. It's tough. It's tough to know what to do. It's tough not to despair. And I'm not going to say I have an answer for any of that other than just, doing the little things. I think the best thing any of us can do right now is to look at our own local community, our nearby world, and do some little things there to help things out. Work in the local community. That's the stuff that translates into the larger things to help what we need to do. So find your local cause, find the thing that makes you passionate locally, find where there's a need, where the people need help near you, and do that work. And, do that and support art. Art, I think, is important for healing in these times as well. Justin and I talk about that a little bit here, the fellowship of art and music. So make a difference locally. Pay attention, but don't get too sucked into that vortex of the national news cycle. Be informed, do the work, but also take care of yourselves and take care of those around you. That's about the best I can say. All right, but that's enough of that. Let's get on to Justin Wells and the music. So we're going to toss you to a song from the upcoming album, Cynthiana. Comes out on February 20th. That's the birthday of Justin's wife, which, she was kind of the inspiration for this whole thing. So this whole album. So yeah, check out the song, and the interview with Justin is after. Take care, all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Here's to life.
They got all the money, honey. We're left with the bills. And I don't think it's funny, honey. It drive a man to steal. It drive a man to drinking, just to dream of better days. When the fat old hype men fall like lightning and die in a cage. They're up there with the angels, or down there with the dogs. We take out our own eyes just to see them when they fall. So this man lives on dirt floors with a box fan and a bed. And double time ain't enough time, he'll be broke until he's dead. And this man lays on linen in a mansion in the hills. In November it lies beneath his heels. They're up there with the angels, we're down here with the dogs. We take out our own eyes just to see them when they fall. There's a line between us both, it'll damn sure get crossed. They're up there with the angels, and we're down here with the dogs. Take it. There's no place for laying down. The emperor is naked, out parading through the town. There ain't no time for talking, let's quit thinking about the train. There's jokers in the castle, but we're the kings and queens. They're up there with the angels, we're down here with the dogs. We take out our knives just to see them when they fall. If there's a line between us both, it'll damn sure get crossed. They're up there with the angels, and we're down here with the dogs.
Oh man, the honor's mine. It's good to see you, man. Thanks for your patience. I know we've been kind of trying to get this done for a little while.
Totally. Yeah. Actually it's crazy. I was looking to see when it was you'd last been on the show. And it was August of 2016, if you can believe it. That blew my mind. That thing about time flying when you get older, man. You can't.
Oh yeah.
So
I honestly thought it might have been before that. I couldn't remember if we'd done it, since the band or not.
Yeah. So let's see. The first time we had you on was still with Fifth on the Floor, actually, because you guys rolled into town and then we couldn't use the green room like we had planned to for the interview. So you and I ended up in your tour van sitting there side by side in the front seat.
I have done the odd interview or 16 in the tour van.
Yeah. That story is still a story that I tell. In fact, the show has evolved since you were last on. I actually have a sound guy now, and I was just telling him that story yesterday about how we were chilling in the van in Mishawaka, Indiana. I think in the semi-cold, but we made it work. So
I did Rolling Stone like that, except the opposite. It was like the grueling heat.
Nice. Yeah. And so this is I think your third time on the show, which I believe might put you at the record holder there. I think you and Roger Klein were the tops at 2 for a while, and then we took a hiatus on the show for a couple of years and came back, and I've been in the process of inviting a lot of the old friends back. So a lot of them have hit the 2 mark, but you're the only one that's hit 3. So
it's a Justin conspiracy, man.
It so is. You get
we're all connected.
That's right. Yeah, we discuss these things at the club. So
at the meeting with the handshake.
That's right. Yep. So Justin Wells, welcome back to Anywhere the Needle Drops. Are you coming to me from? Where are you coming from today?
I'm home, man. I'm in Lexington. Yeah, still kind of gearing up for the release and trying to shake off the winter blues, but the ice is not letting us. So I don't know how it's looking at y'all's way.
We are at we're right around 0 degrees right now. It's pretty cold out there.
Us. I think we're at 5, but
okay. All right. I got an old pickup truck I took in about a year or so ago, and I got to keep going out there and jumping the thing just to keep it alive through this cold, because it's an old one, but that's what it is with those old farm trucks. So yeah. So we're bringing you back, not just because though you're always welcome back just because, but you've got we're just about a month out from the new album, right?
Yeah, I think yesterday was a month.
Nice. Yeah. So
a month ago.
All right. So tell me about what you got in the works there.
Well, the record's called Cynthiana. It's coming out on a Thursday, which is apparently some sort of faux pas. I don't know why in this kind of like DIY climate we're in, but I wanted to put it out on my wife's birthday. The whole thing is kind of born out of, just frankly trying to sit and write a love song. But honestly, man, it goes back to during the lockdown and, we weren't touring, and suddenly my wife, who married a touring musician, is like faced with him daily. And just seeing, man, like, just how much she puts into everything when I'm gone, and being a part of that. And I don't know, man. I had really struggled to write from that place. And I feel like, as you age and you mature, I think you're a little more comfortable with yourself, with your feelings. And yeah, I don't know. It sprang out of all that. It was like one song and then two. And I'm like, man, I'm writing this whole record kind of about her and in tribute to her and like inspired by her. And so that wasn't necessarily the intention from the outset. That's just the way it was going. And so I titled it Cynthiana. Cynthiana is where we both met. We both went to high school there. Neither of us are like from there. We don't have our people there, but just a small town in Kentucky, man. And this, without making this kind of diatribe too much longer, I met my wife when we were both in high school, and we were together for 5 years and like small town engaged. And then we split up. And actually, around the time I met you, I think we'd just gotten back together like a year or two. So it was like 8 years apart.
Oh, wow.
Didn't keep in touch. None of that. We weren't hanging. I was touring the country singing songs about how she broke my heart. Yeah, man. So, we've been married now, man, almost 13 years and 2 beautiful kids and a home. And
that's awesome. Yeah.
That's the racket.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, some of those, the days of the band, and the songs you were playing there, a little more, a little more raucous, a little more, party rock, having good times kind of a thing. And, it does seem like you've been on this trajectory of, a little more introspection on your releases as we've gone.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, this is the first, I guess this is the first album that I wrote, not drinking. I never was much of a writing while drunk or stoned or any of that kind of mess, but, it's still substance has its hooks in you, even if you're not actively on it, I don't know that necessarily has anything to do with the direction of this record. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but what it certainly allowed me to do, whether I wanted to or not, is, face a bunch of things. You know what I mean? Look in the mirror and have some clarity. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that you can see, you've kind of stayed with my work, that it's real important to me for each album to have a purpose. Otherwise, why is it an album? I don't want to just release the last 10 to 12 songs I wrote. You know what I mean? To me, they're very they cut their own lines, they're their own chapters. And this was that one. We really set out for a lot of warmth. We talked about that word, came up a lot, man. Warmth. We specifically didn't want big grandiose things the way we did on The United State. We wanted it to feel like the room that we recorded in, and we wanted you, the listener, to kind of feel, a couple of feet away from the performers, from the songs. Intimate, I guess, is the kind of cliched word, but yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned the word we. So are you working with, you've been releasing under Justin Wells, the past couple albums. Are you working with the same team or a similar team through that whole period?
Yes and no. And, good opportunity for me to like challenge the misnomer of the quote unquote solo artist or solo record. Like that has offended me my whole career. And, now that I'm in this, in the seat of being a quote unquote solo, whatever, writer, it makes me so uncomfortable, man. I'm a band guy. This was not necessarily the plan, but I'm stoked to be here. But man, there's so many people that put their mark on my and our work, you know. And as far as like the team, I've had the same producer across my 3 solo full lengths. Dwayne Lundy here in town. He's worked with everybody, man. Sturgill Simpson. He's worked with Ringo. He had a couple of songs on a Ringo Starr record that he produced. He's just an amazing talent. And we always kind of like have like a dinner or a coffee or in the day a drink, and would talk about without him having heard any songs, kind of what my goal is, what I'm kind of aiming for, what he's kind of in the mood for, where his head's been at, where my head's been at, you know, where those two things are going to meet. And it's almost like it's almost like a mood setter before we're even really getting into the songs and like arrangement, et cetera. And this one, like, that's where we talked about a lot of those kinds of things that I wanted to do a full 180 sonically off the last record and bring it in a little bit and that kind of thing. As far as actual players, there is just a couple players that are consistent across records, but in keeping with what I'm telling you about really wanting there to be distinction, you know, writing sonically everything between records, a kind of cheating way to do that, man, is to have different players, you know, and that's what's kind of happened. The core band on each record is completely different. And then we'll have, you know, say Lee Carroll on keys. He's played keys on all of my records and things of that nature, Tom Nato on steel, whatever. But yeah, man, that's a little pro tip for anybody that's trying to shake it up. Just use a different band every time, man. And try to like put that around. Don't just get your homies necessarily, or, you know, the shreddingest guitarist you can find. Like, really think about what the song means and what you're trying to convey, and play to people's strengths. I mean, you know, any guy that's in the studio or a gal that's in the studio that's a pro, they know what they're best at. You know, Shaquille O'Neal's not hitting free throws, man. You know, like, play to their strengths and use all these talents in the way that they probably want to be used. I don't know. This sounds a little whatever, but use all the paint that you have available to you, man. You know what I mean? Don't restrict
colors.
yourself.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about, man, honestly, like, to kind of reveal behind the curtain, that kind of thinking and stuff can hurt feelings, which I understand that it would hurt my feelings sometimes. But, you know, the art is the most important thing to me, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, you kind of mentioned there, but there's so many people that are involved in this process of recording that, you know, it's not even just the you know, the musicians. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
yeah, the places you're drawing the writing from, and then, you know, the people in the room, you know, and the engineering and that sort of a thing, who all have their own little touch on it and make, you know, whether it be what they're doing on the board or what they're encouraging you to do or maybe pushing you to do. Did you have any of those experiences where maybe you had someone exterior saying, "Hey, what if you did a little bit of this or a little bit of that instead," and see where that takes you?
Yeah, I did. I resisted. resisted. One in particular, someone I don't work with anymore, was really pushing having a guest vocalist on the record, and I guess trying to play the Spotify game. And I was like, man, this is a record about my wife. I don't think that I necessarily want somebody to come in singing about her. You know, I don't know, man. Like, I think we're fools if we're not aware of what's going on around us, right? And like, paying attention to how the business is working. That it's foolish to completely ignore that, unless you have somebody looking out for that for you. But like, I don't know, man, when that starts being the driver, that's when you get the just carbon copy art. It's not like it's not inspiring. It's just predictable.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that kind of thing up here in my neck of the woods. Michiana is what we call it. You know, when you played up here, you played in Mishawaka. And we're kind of nestled here right on the border. I'm on the Michigan side, and then we've got South Bend, Indiana, and there's a scene here that's it's really nice, because there's been a very active attempt to kind of avoid that sort of a thing and really not make it about the Spotify game, and just try to build a thing here on the ground where you've got venues, you've got fans, and you've got musicians all supporting each other for the sake of the art.
Yeah.
You get what's your experience in that? Do you have a home scene, for lack of a better word, or?
Yeah, but I mean, I think you can even tell in this conversation, I'm I can be a bit cantankerous. I'm not really one to go with the flow. Yeah, thanks, Mom. There, of course, there's a thing happening in Kentucky right now that's been happening, because of Homie's success, and I'm stoked about it. I mean, what has happened in this state since I spoke to you last is incredible in terms of festivals popping up, venues popping up, artists popping up, great artists. It seems like exponential, frankly. And I think that, guys like Stu and Tyler and, to a lesser degree, Stapleton, opened the door for that, certainly created a desire from like fan side, right? And people willing to pay money to go to these festivals and stuff. But, as is often the case, like, I'm kind of here to remind everyone that not all of us in Kentucky are from the holler, man. And not all of us, I don't come from coal miners. I come from mechanics, just kind of trying to shine a light on the entire state, not just a couple of counties. Appalachia's got a rich heritage, and I'm glad it's kind of to the fore. But there's other stories to tell, and I like loud guitars, man.
Yeah. So, which is, again, talking about the album, you've got coming out. I mean, are there any loud guitar songs in this one, or is it pretty quiet? I mean, what are we in store for?
I think that, especially, and kind of Fifth on the Floor, like, is there anything as raucous as that? Yeah. Like one, I've kind of spoken about this record as like 9 love songs and 1 hate song. And the next single that hits is a song called Up There with the Angels. That actually is the oldest song. It dates back to that era of Fifth on the Floor. I've written and rewritten that song so many times and never gotten it right until this record.
I remember even back in the day with Fifth on the Floor. What was the one song you had? Angels in the Sun, I think.
Angels in the Snow. Yeah.
Oh, Angels in the Snow. That's right. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That one was that had some emotion to it. I think we were getting there, that band, we partied too hard, man. We partied too hard. There wasn't a lot of mental health focus in that crew. It was a little more like day to day and knocking the hangover off. But but we've also, we were trying to do that back then too, man. Like, we were really trying to discover what was next on every record. We weren't really interested in kind of staying in a groove. I like to think that's why some people were attracted to us, is that we were kind of like a little hard to pin down,
Yeah, I mean, I like the Whiskeys or some of the other songs that you had from back in that day, but actually, Angels in the Snow is one of the ones that I think I probably still is more regular on my playlist than some of the others. I mean, that's
absolutely
stood out. So
it's a great song, man. I miss it. That's Parsons that brought that to the record, and I saw him just the other day. We speak almost daily. Dude's doing real good, but he's not in the music business, which is probably why he's doing so well mentally.
Yeah. I mean, it can be.
I'm a sucker.
Well, it sounds like you've adopted some maybe some good ways of living to help cope with that, because it can be such a, I mean, we live in a world of, if not real, at least perceived scarcity. And that only, is exponential when it comes to art and music and that sort of a thing. I mean, so you can't run a ragged every night and sustain. You gotta take care and have a long-term plan and all that.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want, if you're trying to make one record and be done, and also, I've got a couple years on me. Like there was some strategy to just jumping in the van and playing, a bar in New Mexico, earlier in my career, I'm splitting $100 four ways, but there was barely strategy then. And that's not very strategic now with the advent of, a lot of the ways we can get music to people. Me personally, I like the road and I like to travel. And so I hope to never replace any of that. But, you know, making 10 fans at a time in a bar that's not how you do it, man. Yeah, if you're going to do it that way, you better live a long time, because it's going to take a long time. And I've done
it. So how are you adjusting your strategy as we move further into, this modern world of streaming and, where the music industry has gone?
On the streaming side, not much, obviously, because I'm still putting out full lengths, and I don't think that that's really the thing that everyone else is doing. But
hey, I am always going to love an album. I will go to my grave professing the gospel of the album. So,
well, here's my commitment that I've kind of made to myself, and this is not actually knocking streaming. I think that let's kind of flip the script here a little bit. Streaming has kind of opened the door in a way to like release music however you want to, and so like especially from this record forward, if 25 songs need to be told in the same story, then that's going to be the record. And also if 2 songs need to be told in the same story, that's going to be the record, and am I going to put out a 2-song, album, like a physical album? Maybe not, maybe, but I kind of like the idea of maybe not being beholden to any format at all,
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Who's dictating this?
Yeah. It makes me think of the early days of television streaming. I remember on Netflix there was that show, the OA, and I'm drawing a blank on the creator's name, but she's one of my favorites. And she already had an unorthodox style of storytelling, and then here she goes and has this TV series which had some weird number of episodes, which, before that you didn't do. And then some episodes were 35 minutes long and others were an hour and 20 minutes or whatever. And it just happened to be whatever that particular story needed to be told. And I mean, some of my talking about albums is probably my age a little bit too, but it doesn't have to be albums. If a single is what fits, I think the important thing is the decisions being made. I mean, obviously you've got to factor in, the money a little bit, but the art should lead the way.
It has to for me, man. It has to for me, because I would rather be myself and say what I want to say and fail than, Jesus Christ, can you imagine pretending and not being honest and then failing? That'd be the worst.
Yeah.
That'd be the worst of all, man. Speaking of what you're just talking about, I just finished a podcast. I think it's called The Great Whale. I'm not sure about that, but it's in the serial feed. And same thing, man. It's like a 6-episode podcast, and maybe they're approximately the same length. And it's about that killer whale from Free Willy, of all things.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Bro, like episode 4 or 5, they're all about an hour long. And like episode 4 or 5 is like 15 minutes, man. And it's like a musical. There's this like section of time where they weren't tracking the whale. They didn't know what it was doing. So they're like, this is only conjecture. So they straight up set it up like a musical in the midst of this, like, kind of like documentary, whatever style podcast is this, like Disney musical sounding thing, man. And I loved it, man. It's like, I don't know. We can bemoan what's happening to the industry, but what I'm attracted to, especially as a DIY guy, is like there are no rules, man.
Yeah,
there are no rules. We can do it however we want to, and that's, to me, what I'm attracted to in art.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and this lesson certainly applies to art, but I think it also applies to life. I've gone through a fair amount of significant life changes in the past year or so. And I've had this realization that, it's okay as things change. That's an opportunity to do something different, because otherwise you kind of get caught in this rut. And, that's kind of that's kind of how you slowly die. That's kind of how you become stagnant and go extinct, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, roll with the changes and change a little yourself in the process and see what comes of it,
And it sucks sometimes. I've been kind of reckoning lately with maybe being addicted to what you're describing, like kind of addicted to new experiences and, being in new places. And I think that's just from a lifetime of kind of waking up in another town and things like that. And so sometimes the quote unquote mundane is like ripping my hair out. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'd rather be this way, and kind of, and sometimes, I don't know if this is the case in kind of you're talking about the past year, but like, certainly sometimes that can be really negative, man. Like there's some health things in some of my connected family that I'm concerned about and things like that. But like, I don't know, it only goes that direction. Right.
Yeah.
So, kind of lump it all in, man. It's all part of the kind of the ride.
That's exactly. And we only get one ride, so we got to make the most of it while we're on it. So
You said it.
so you've got a couple of kids, and you're living the married life. How does that balance with being a touring musician and being a working musician, someone out there that's really like toiling to make a living doing this?
Well, I am beyond lucky for a few reasons. And I think that the way that she and I are able to make this work, for one thing, we had the kind of bedrock of that, the 5 years in our, early adulthood. So we didn't have to get to know each other as I was a touring musician, which I can't imagine. That'd be a nightmare. But also when we kind of got back together, man, I've never told this story. This is a little cringe, but one of our first dates, I was like, hey, you want to come over and I'll make some tacos and we'll watch a movie. And we were kind of deciding that we were going to really give this a go. And the movie I put on was Crazy Heart. And I said, look, this is kind of where my life is and it's not normal. And if you're kind of interested in normal, like I think this is doomed, but I want you to watch this movie. I want you to see this guy's kind of arc. And like, if I end up playing bowling alleys, man, with Ryan Bingham as my backup guitar player, but if I end up playing bowling alleys like this dude in this movie, like that's what it's going to be because I love this. And I think it would be unfair to both of us to ignore that. And I was just honest. And I think that a lot of people trying to put relationships together that are kind of travelers like this, they're dishonest either with themselves or with their partner, and it leads to friction. And this is not normal, man. Who can blame someone for not wanting to have a partner that's gone half the time?
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame anyone, so I wanted to be honest because I'm a sensitive dude and heartbreak kills me, man. And I just wanted to preempt that. I've never told that story. I think me and her know that. But there you go, my Crazy Heart taco story.
That's what we're here for. The breaking news at anyone who's up,
It's just kind of so cringe and like arrogant in retrospect, but it's like, it was me trying to just be honest about myself. And
hey, man, I believe me, there is nothing more of value to me, particularly at this point of my life, than being honest about the dirty, ugly, nasty of it all. I mean, I've been dipping my toe back into the dating pool. I had been married and that didn't work out, unfortunately. And I'm pretty early on in that process when I'm meeting somebody. If there's a vibe, been like, all right, let's get all the warts out right now. Like, let's just do it. Like, cause like I don't have time to mess around with any of this, shiny sheen that's eventually going to wear off. Let's just get right into it. And I mean,
I think you said it. Well, I think part of that maybe just comes with as we age. It's like exactly right. Like, hey, let's not waste time. Like,
yeah,
this movie sucks. Let's not watch this movie or what. I don't know. There's so little time just in the day anyway with everything, notifying us at all times of everything that like, I don't know. Yeah. Well, congratulations on your life changes, if that's what you're wanting, or bummer if it's not. I
All
did.
of the above. All of the
You
above.
should have let me know, man, and I would have written a heartbreak record. But I've got several of those.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, yeah, we need to sync up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that line from you ever see that movie Moonlight Mile? I'm a sap too, and like it's kind of a silly heartbreak romance. It's with Jake Gyllenhaal and Susan Sarandon and Dustin Hoffman, and he was engaged to their daughter, and she dies, and it's all about them like having this weird family dynamic post the thing connected them being gone and what that means for the future. And there's a line in there somewhere where a character says something about like knowing the first like 60% of a person, and it's like, well, no, but it's the last 40% that actually matters. That's the real stuff right there.
Yeah, that most people spend their entire lives trying to hide.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that we take this as creatives, we kind of take that for granted. Like, I think we are, by our nature, for the most part, a little more comfortable in our own skin. And so I don't know about you, but like it can make communication with others a little difficult for me sometimes when I am sensing that it's kind of like the bullshit, the mundane bullshit that's every day. And it's like, I don't know, man, if this is my late onset ADD or what, but I'm like, I ain't got time for that. Like we're not having a meaningful conversation. And it's not like I'm too good to do any damn thing, bro. Like, you saw how long it took me to set up this mic just then. I'm a redneck, but I don't know. I don't know. I want things to be meaningful. I want art to be meaningful and conversation, Is that movie good? Do I need to check that out?
Oh, it's one of those ones I watch probably once a year. I would definitely recommend it. It's very, very good. Good if you want to feel some feels, maybe cry a little bit. I'd suggest
always
Moonlight Mile. Yep.
Yeah, good. Heck yeah, man.
Highly recommended. Let me know what you think of it when you watch it. So.
I definitely will, dude. I'm a fan of everybody you mentioned there.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, are you having any fun collaborations out there while you're out there playing music, touring? I saw who was it? Oh, B. Taylor played up in my neck of the woods last summer. We had a music festival that she came up with, and she and I chatted for a little while and had some good conversations. So I started following her on social media and been actually trying to get her on the show too with her new stuff. But then I saw you guys played together at some point, I think.
I think that, yeah. She opened, that's right. She opened for me in down at Eddie's Attic, which is this like just perfect sounding kind of like listener room outside of Atlanta. But I've been hip to B for a minute. Actually, the world just keeps shrinking. But my producer I was talking about earlier, he produced B's most recent record. She did it here in Lexington.
Nice. It's a great album.
Yeah, man. What I've only heard a couple songs, but B's just kind of singular. I asked her before I had met her, I'm like, are you from, because I'm from Louisiana originally, northern Louisiana outside Shreveport. And I said, are you from down there? Are you from New Orleans? And she's like, nah, man, but I love Dr. John. And I was like, oh, yes. And she's eat up, man. She's powerful, bro. And a lot of power come from a little bitty package. She's tiny, but her voice is enormous.
Yeah, she killed it at the Acorn at that show. I mean, that's a good space there, and she owned that entire room during that festival. It was pretty awesome. So
she's fantastic. I'm stoked that more ears are hearing what she's putting out.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of Dr. John, another thing that's happened in the interim since you and I last spoke, I had this show called Mambo Sauce for about a minute before the licensing got too expensive to keep up with. But we had this show. A buddy of mine inherited this giant record collection from a friend of his who had passed, and it was basically the show is basically the musical journey of his life and discovering all these great American roots musicians. And so he would pick a couple of records and a couple of songs each episode, and I'd do the bio work, and he would talk about his stories with these musicians. But Dr. John definitely made it on a couple of those episodes because that's classic stuff right there.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Absolutely. And, it'd be remiss of us to not mention Garth Hudson passing today, the last, surviving member of the band, which is one of mine, previously Fifth on the Floor's really biggest influences,
Yeah.
one of the few times it seemed like democracy kind of worked in a band.
Yeah. What anyone else out there you're playing with that you're really enjoying, either, directly in the band or just that you're hanging out with or seeing out there?
I've been spending a lot of time with Casey Campbell and his band Buffalo Wobbs and the Price Hill Hustle. And Casey's opening a couple shows for me coming up, but just, I mean, like the vibe of the conversation we're having right now, like Casey would slot right in. He's just, there's kind of like, he's the real deal. He's a sweetheart. He's mega talented. He knows how to speak to a crowd. He knows how to perform and loves it. I think he's an old theater kid. But yeah, man, just a lot of positivity. And I gotta be honest with you, man, like my favorite collaborations right now are within my own band. I've kind of replaced this player and that player over the years, which happens, by the nature of this business. But I have a group of guys now that have all been with me, save for my keys player, for several years. And just the positivity, man. We every time we get in a room, we're stoked to see each other. It feels so healthy and has for some time. Actually, Kevin, the drummer you would have seen me with Fifth on the Floor, is my drummer now and has been for a few years. But it's all, I don't know. It's not that kind of what I see happening a lot more in the like country realm of things of like, I'm not dictating anything, man. You know what I mean? I don't go to my tattoo artist and tell him how to tattoo, tell him maybe what I'm looking for. And that's the direction, but I'm not going to tell him how to shade. That's insane. I'm not going to tell my bass player how to play the instrument. I don't know how to play bass, but I can tell him that, I want butts to shake when he hits that note,
For sure. Yeah. There you go.
It's just a good bunch, man. And I really feel like, going back to what I said earlier about the kind of faux pas of the solo artist, like it's a shame that people aren't credited the way they ought to be. And, it's my name on the marquee. It's the same with this record, man. This whole record is about, I think that our partners should get to share in some of the glory, considering that they're doing oftentimes the least fun thing in the partnership in terms of making sure the babies are to school on time and stuff,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, one of the things where people are probably sick of me saying, I got a line on this show, it's give musicians your money. And that particularly applies to, people sit down and buy that physical media and sit down with it and dig through those liner notes. And I was talking to my last guest about when Drive By Truckers, they just did a re-release of the Southern Rock Opera. And so they did it up. They did a big vinyl thing with, huge book in it. And I spent a whole weekend just sitting there cross-legged on the floor, which wasn't a bad idea or a good idea after the fact at this age, but sitting there with my headphones on and just flipping records and going through those books. And in there, you see those names that don't, get the marquee, but those people all matter. They're in those liner notes for a reason,
They matter so much. That record, find the name on there that contributed the least. Maybe it's like one instrument for one bar on one song, and remove that instrument from that bar on that song. And it's not the same record. It may be imperceptible to most, but it's literally not the same record, man. And like, I don't know. I don't know how you kind of like, quote unquote, fix that. I don't think that you ever do. You can't put 40 names on a marquee. But I know that Spotify in particular has taken steps to like, I know they're crediting like co-writes and they're crediting producers. I don't know if they're crediting mixing engineers, but that certainly needs to extend down to the electric sitar or whatever. I don't know. And it's something that I'm glad you mentioned that, because we're really toiling on some of the art with this record. And I get so detail oriented and like it's like, who's going to read this? Who's going to dig it? Who's going to appreciate the time you're putting into this? And my answer is always like, well, me, like I was that kid.
Yeah.
I was that kid to be stoked to see, oh man, on this, Wallflowers track, that's Adam Duritz. That's homeboy from cantankerous, man. Like, oh, wow. They're hanging out or, whatever.
Yeah.
I've always been stoked about that. So I don't know. There's a lot of little Easter eggs in this record, in the art package, just kind of about me and Andrea.
Nice. Yeah. Well, and I think there is an audience for that. I don't think it's just you and me,
No, of
I
course
think,
not.
you see it in the way that, I don't know. I get a sense of, and my buddy Paul, actually the guy that does sound for the show, we talk about this a lot about people are craving something different, something real. It's why you see, records are cool again, and people are craving a certain kind of live experience when they go out. I mean, there's always going to be sort of that meeting audience where you might be in a room playing to some people having their own conversation or just there for drinks or whatnot. But there's always going to be a segment of the population that are true music lovers, that they're there to go to those listening rooms. They're there to dig through those liner notes. They want something that's real, that's not disposable. And I mean, I don't care if you're young or old, like that's a real human need. People know that instinctually, if not cognitively, Yeah.
Absolutely, man. You know something that I am always kind of keen in for, playing a room, and there's like a guy or a gal that is like kind of clearly there by themselves. You gotta So immediately they're there for a reason,
Yeah.
And if they're not just knocking drinks back and being obnoxious, they're tuned in. You look down, that person is by themselves and they're watching you. You have no idea what you are maybe doing for that person. I mean, not to be lofty, this is any performer or anything, but like, I'm not giving myself importance. What I'm giving is the job importance, the role, and being respectful. Me and my crew talk about the stages, you know, thousands or whatever of folks have been on that stage before us. Like, we don't come up there to show our ass, man. Like, I'm purposely avoiding that word sacred, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the word, man. Like, treat it with respect, treat the people that have paid their money to get in that room with respect, and respect the fact that, maybe we're sick of this song today for whatever reason. We've played it a million times, or we're not locked in emotionally or whatever. And then that one gal or that one dude that's just like watching everything coming out of your mouth and every note. You don't know, man. You don't know what they're going through. And that's been me. I have to assume that's been you a million times. Like,
Yeah.
That's the importance to me, of art,
Yeah, I mean, another cliche that I should probably avoid is that whole concept of, music saving lives, but it is true. I mean, I went through some dark days this last year, and Roger Klein, speaking of again, happened to be coming through my neck of the woods and had like 3 shows in the course of a week, just within, an hour or so drive. And I was like, I'm going to every single one. And I went, and I was that guy alone in the crowd, just by myself, singing my heart out and having that moment. And, it was that kind of thing's healing, when the music means something to you. It's, that's why we make art.
Yeah. And I don't know, man. It's that is an interaction that we can roll our eyes at or ignore, but it's there nonetheless. I don't know. It's something that I think about a lot, especially when maybe things aren't going my way in the business or whatever, and cynicism is at the door or whatever. That can just instantly rewind me to that point where it was all joy all the time. That's where I want to create from. That's where I want to perform from, that place of like that child Justin Wells with his, essentially Metallica cover band on stage in high school, and just that fire, man. Like, I love that feeling. Yeah, I don't know. And might I also note, I think we met when we were touring with Roger Klein, but something that really stuck out for me in his fan base and touring with those guys is how many of y'all would like go to multiple shows. It's like his connection with his fans is a pretty cool thing that struck us. It seemed to be about getting together and like fellowship as much as, seeing Roger Clyne play a song again or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
Stuck with me.
Mean, a joke I often say about Roger Clyne is being a fan of him is one of the things I've done longest in my life. I mean, besides breathing, pretty much, because I've been listening to Roger's music since I was 13 years old, and that's been 3 decades now. So, there's not a whole lot more I've done besides be a son and a brother and a human being walking on this earth. Besides that,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Man, I was probably 13 when I heard that. Everybody knows.
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah, man. We used to have an alternative station in Central Kentucky that's, long gone, and iHeart's swallowed up everything. But that's where, being from a small town, man, and hearing like, Cake, you're like, what? What? Like, not every band is, Skynyrd or AC/DC, which are bands that I love, but, the classic rock stations certainly wear them out, Yeah,
definitely. Man. Yeah, we've been reminiscing a lot about kind of those days of especially of like MTV, because I'm working on a project with Paul, our sound guy here, and we're trying to kind of bring some of that back, because I found that Roger song, that Bandito song, and probably those same Cake songs, watching late night MTV. Taking in 120 minutes or whatever other show, that I just used to eat up, and all the stuff that I used to discover back then,
Dude. Yeah. M2.
Yeah.
M2. That was a little weirder. We were talking about, you remember a band called Our Lady Peace?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've seen them live.
I was just talking, my friend Keith Neltner, who's, graphic artist, visual artist, did the art on the last record. I was talking to him yesterday, and he shared this, like that singer's wife playing one of their songs. And so I DM'd him. I'm like, hey man, I was like stoked on that band when I was in high school. I found them on Much Music, and then years later was touring Canada and played a show, and the opening band, it was the guitar player from Our Lady Peace. Like it was his like side project or whatever. And I played with him. It was awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm actually, it's like crazy you say that, because I still, in my studio here, I still have my CD collection going back to high school and pre-high school, and directly above your head on the screen that I've seen, I can see the spine of that Our Lady Peace album right there. So.
Yeah, I remember it, man.
Yeah,
I was stoked on that record. It got a little poppy after that, but I was stoked on that record. And again, man, like when all you've heard your whole life is the same kind of classic rock bands.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is pretty cool. We're just showing our ages on this.
We really are. Which kind of takes me to, I wanted to ask, how do your kids feel about dad as a musician? Because I don't have kids, but my impression is probably they're probably not too impressed. But I don't know, what's that like on their end? Do they think it's
there's a couple things at play. One of which is like, of course, I would be the proudest dad in the world for my kids to make music or whatever. I'll be damned if they, approach the business the way I did. They're going to have the benefit of dad's knowledge, but, we don't talk about it a whole lot. Like, they've seen, they'll see that daddy's on Spotify or this, that, and the other thing, but most of the time just daddy, and they're getting stupid jokes out of me all day, every day. But, something that was cool, just this past weekend, we did this huge, is a sold out in the midsize in Lexington. It's 1,200 people, for this gentleman named Byron Roberts. That's a friend of mine that, is struggling with cancer right now. And he's certainly not out of the woods. And this guy put on like really like the first independent festival in Kentucky. Like Tyler Childers would headline every year, and we'd all play it. And it was on his property, man. He'd have 1,500 people on his property out in Irving, Kentucky, dude, in the holler. And this guy has put himself out for art and for artists, all these years. Anyway, he's struggling now. And so we had this big event, and it sold out, and everyone's emotional, and all these bands performed. It was almost like a one day, it's like 3 days of festival packed in one day. We all did like 20 minute sets. And it's really important for me, for the girls to be there, not to see daddy do his bullshit, but to see the positivity, man, and to see what everyone was getting from that, which was not, we're going to go post this on Instagram or getting this selfie or we're going to get drunk. It was literally about fellowship, man. You know what I mean? It was about people who get something like what you and I were talking about from music, getting together in a room and feeling that feeling. And not a church dude, but I think that checks all the boxes. You know, I wanted them to experience that because I think that's a little more of an adult thing. You know, I don't think that kids, they've not been hit with too much heavy at that point. And I wanted them to experience that, and they got to, and then they were stoked. You know, then they were proud to be a part of that evening. So that's usually, it's not like that unless I put them in the video, like I put them in this last video. But so now that's like their favorite.
Sure, yeah.
Nah, man, they're showing me music. It's pretty cool. I'm learning about pop music.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And it's the evolutions continue, you know. I mean,
pop music's awesome, dude. Like it's
agreed. Yeah,
it beats the hell out of pop country, doesn't it?
It's crazy because you know, for this work that I do, I don't have a choice but to keep up on what's going on, and yeah, so I've got to try to stay tight on those trends, and there's fun stuff happening out there. So yeah, it's a crazy time. And I think there's something to be said for those communal moments. There's something spiritual about them, and you know, I think the more we build those things through music, through art, through community, you know, obviously we're in some rougher times. A lot of people not feeling great about their neighbor, but I think, you know, that kind of stuff is the thing that brings us together past our differences. You know, sharing over art, sharing over music, and yeah.
Damn right, man. It's not politicians. That's not their job. Their job is to do the opposite of that. Like it's our job, you know? And I think that's what we got to do, man. We can't, I'm just sick of othering. Like,
yeah,
everybody's welcome at my show unless you got a swastika on your jacket, buddy. Go ahead and get gone with that bullshit. But man, I don't care who you voted for, and we don't have to agree on that. I don't think that's the most interesting thing about someone. You know, if you can come act right, you know, and have a good time and smoke one or drink one or whatever it is your forte. And I don't know. I think we need a little bit more of that, man. Right? Like the hippies and the cowboys. That's what we need.
Indeed. Yeah, a little more singing and dancing in this world. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. More dancing, more dudes that know how to dance. That's what we need.
Well, you'll be glad to know I took up dance this last year. So
so what's the focus?
So it's actually this weird, not weird. It is not the kind of the orthodox dance class you might think of. This is not going for ballroom or salsa or anything like that. There's this great local outfit called Dance Society. Shout out to Sharon. She's been a guest on the show before, doing amazing things. But Sharon will take a theme and she'll put it on for that night. And that theme might be, you know, a musician. You know, we've done the Cranberries. We've done the last class I was at was Janet Jackson. It might be something a little more out there. We did one based on Bob Fosse, you know, from the world of musicals. She even did one based on Bo Burnham's COVID comedy special that he did in his apartment because there's a lot of music in there.
It was genius.
Oh my God, right? But she'll build an entire dance class around there. So you show up not really knowing much of anything, and over the course of an hour and a half, 2 hours, she will teach you this full-on choreography. And by the end, you do this amazing dance that you just learned, and yeah, it's something, and it's building. Speaking of community, I mean, that is what Sharon is doing with that. It's community for sure.
That's such a cool idea and concept, man. Shout out to Sharon for sure. Like
definitely.
That's got to be challenging, like for her, but for you or you guys that show up, man.
Yeah, it's definitely taken me out of my comfort a little bit, which has been the whole point. So the craziest night that I had, and she messaged me afterward to ask me how I felt about it. But she does these classes called kinder classes, and it's all about kind of bringing out that childhood spirit, and everything's very simplified. And I walk in. I don't normally go to those because it's a different night than the regular class. I'm usually busy doing other work, but I'm like, I'm going to go to this one, check it out. And I walk in there, and the dance class is all sitting cross-legged on the floor. Some of them are wearing like pixie wings on their back, and they're sitting there doing like arts and crafts and sipping tea. And I'm like, I don't know what I just walked into, but okay. And then we did this like fairyland, very simplistic dance, and it was definitely way outside my comfort zone, way outside my norm. But you know what? I had a blast. I felt real good after it. And when she messaged me a little while later, asked me how I was like, you know what? That was great. That made me feel like a kid again. So
I am like blown away by this. Like, I want to look and see if there's anything like that in this area. I've never heard of something like that. That's awesome.
Oh man, I will. I don't let me forget. I'll send you a video of some of the stuff we've done. It's pretty cool.
I would love that. Please do.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Shout out Sharon and Dance Society. All right, though, I got to be respectful of your time. So we got the new album coming out. We are about a month out. So are there going to be some touring going on? What's the plan with the release?
Some light touring right now, man. There is a run in May that I can't announce yet, but for the most part, we're hitting some full band dates kind of in my radius that I do: Indianapolis, Cincinnati, obviously Lexington, getting down to the Carolinas and Tennessee. So doing the thing.
Awesome.
Trying to make every moment meaningful, and trying to make sure that we can do that in spaces that, facilitate what we're trying to do.
Definitely. Well, I know it's a little outside your reach, but if there's ever anything I can do to get you connected up here to some stuff and get you back in my neck of the woods, I sure would love to see you up here doing your thing.
You'll see me this year.
Excellent. All right. And certainly if not, I'll be shooting down your way to catch one of those shows. So
that'd be awesome, man. Love to have you.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I guess we both probably got things to do, work to do. So anything we missed, anything you want to make sure people know out there?
Just tagging what we were just talking about, trying to listen to your neighbor. You might not agree with them on the surface, but there's often a reason people feel the way they feel about things. And if we listen to it, we don't have to absorb it and that be our new way of doing things, but we can understand a little better.
Definitely. Yeah. Yep. It's a good lesson to go off with. So, all right, Justin Wells, everyone can find the links and all that good stuff in the show notes. Make sure you pre-order that album and get a physical copy, folks. Get a physical copy of that thing sent to you, and check out Justin on one of his tour dates. So, all right, Justin, thank you so much. I'm glad we got to make this happen. Let's not make it 9 years between the next time. All right, let's get this going a little more often.
Yeah, 100%, man. And thanks for kind of staying on me. And, I guess I'll see you at the next, Society of Justins meeting.
Indeed. All right. Take care.
See you, brother.
You've been listening to Anywhere the Needle Drops from Red Chuck Productions. Keep up on new episodes of this show, our live events and various creations and other happenings over at redchuckproductions.com or by following us on social media at Red Chuck Productions. Special thanks to Hero Jr. for our theme music. You can check them out over at herojuniormusic.com. That is Hero, Hero, Junior, JR, music.com. A big shout out to Paul Clemson and Theory One Productions for handling sound duties and so much more. Check out their magic over at theory1productions.com. And a big thank you to Earthworks Audio for outfitting the Red Chuck studio. See their microphones and their other products over at earthworksaudio.com. Be sure to support all of our guests by visiting their websites, social media, clicking that subscribe button, seeing them live, and checking out their merch stores. Give musicians and artists your money. We'll be back with the next episode. Until then, thank you for your time. Here's to life.
Some